My name is Justin Scioli. I am a postdoctoral fellow at the Smithsonian Marine Station. I did my PhD at the University of Louisiana, and my background is really in taxonomy and evolution of crustaceans. I did my PhD working on snapping shrimp, which are a family of decapod crustaceans, and I am deeply interested in especially symbiotic taxa, things that live in close association with other things, and infaunal taxa, which are things that live in the sediment in marine ecosystems.
I'm Judith Winston, and I'm a taxonomist who studies animals called bryozoans, which not many people hear about, but there are about 6,000 recent species and many more fossil species going way back in time, and they're all over the ocean, everywhere from the intertidal, and they live in fresh water. They live in colonies. They're colonial animals, invertebrates, and they're part of the filtration system, water filtration system, by their feeding activities. So they help keep bodies of water clean.
Being a taxonomist lets you get really deeply invested in like one lineage of organisms, and so by doing that, it gives you a little bit of perspective on how things evolve and sort of like appreciating variations on a theme, you know? So like, it's kind of like, I guess, people who are really into cars looking at different model cars and different, I don't know, headlights or hubcaps or whatever, like, you know, seeing all the species in one genus or all the genera in one family or something, and comparing how they're different and why those differences may have arisen is pretty fascinating.
You find new animals, you learn about their lives as much as you can, and if you don't do that, they don't exist. One is that it's all been done, and it hasn't been done.
A common misconception these days is that taxonomy is sort of passé or no longer necessary with the advent of genetics and ways to quantify and examine diversity through genetics, or other more cutting-edge techniques or whatever. That classical taxonomy, describing species, sitting down and doing drawings of different body parts of those species and things, is something that is 19th century or 20th century science and no longer necessary, because honestly there's a lot of knowledge in older generations of taxonomists that's getting lost because of that attitude. So we're not training younger people as much, and so sometimes the only person who can tell apart the species of some obscure genus, whatever, retires or passes away, and then there's no one around anymore who can do that, and we pay the price for that, because there's an element of biodiversity knowledge that gets lost.
One of the things I did like 20 years ago was write a book on how to describe species, because other biologists would keep asking me, well, I know I found something new, but what do I do now? So one of the things I've done in my career is try to promote taxonomy, because it's not done. In the ocean, we're nowhere near knowing what's there. And maybe never will, but my belief is that if you want to run a planet, you need to have an inventory.
Taxonomy in the most literal sense is describing new species, and from the point of view of, is that still happening? I think in 2023, more species were described than ever before. So at first glance, it looks like maybe taxonomy is alive and well. But when you look at how many people are specifically in jobs or positions where taxonomy is the primary focus, that number is really dwindling. So who is doing taxonomy now are people who are geneticists or ecologists or other things who maybe do it a little bit on the side because they need to put a name on some organism they're working with or something. But because that's not their principal interest or their main experience. Like, it's not the same as someone who does it all the time. And so I think the lack of people who are really specifically trained to do taxonomic work is dwindling, and it's a unique skill set. It's one that takes a lot of time to foster. Like, it's not the kind of thing that you can pick up and learn in a workshop or a course and go.
The real crisis is that we don't know as much as we need to know about the other occupants of the planet. And it's not the kind of project that gets you big funding, because there isn't any money in it. And now people use not just characters that you can see, but also the molecular characters, and so it gets quite expensive to pursue. And what we pursue in science tends to be whatever is the trend at the time. Whereas taxonomy tends to become more important over time. In other words, if Darwin never wrote The Origin of Species, people would still be citing his taxonomic work on barnacles. So, it takes a while for it to build up, and it doesn't give you a great reputation to start with. But I do it because I think it's essential to do.
You learn some genetics, learn some other things, because you may need to lean on that to get a job these days. But I would also say, stick to your passion and don't get discouraged by people who will tell you that, oh, we don't need that anymore. We have DNA barcoding. That's, old stuff. We don't need to be able to, illustrate things or name species or that sort of thing. Like stick to it and follow your passions. And find, also, if you're you're interested in taxonomy and you don't know what group, you don't have a particular interest in one group, you just like the idea of it, I would say there are so many understudied groups that need people, where the diversity is really high, the knowledge is really poor, and you can make a really big impact by working on those groups.
Don't give up. Learn everything you can about the biology of the animals you study. And if you love it, keep on doing it. No matter if people tell you, well, you'll never get a job in a museum. Somebody gets those jobs, and why not you? If you're persistent, you can make a career.